And welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And I'm sorry if the internet is choppy. I'm doing everything that I know humanly possible to make this work, and it is just it's been challenging. It's been challenging. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, okay, it's exhausting. Um, because I'm trying to get my camera to do right. So it's fluid, right? So it's not choppy and weird because it looks weird to me. If it looks weird to you guys, like let me know. It just chaps my hide. Chaps my hide. Cause I'm lowering the output so that there's more fluidity. But it seems the lower that I put the output, the worse it is. So it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm losing. I'm gonna be trying some different platforms as I explained to you guys going forward this month. So maybe probably next Friday or so, we're gonna try some different platforms that aren't StreamYard um, to see if things fare out better. Honestly, truthfully, um, wow. Okay, I can't change the definition. So this is what we're stuck at. We're stuck at 720p. And sorry, it's horrible. I tried. We'll figure this out tomorrow together because that's how we do everything here at Unfiltered Vision News. But again, good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And with that, let's get into our first video for our Kids Corner.
A 6-year-old rich kid who loved his toys. One morning, a little mistake would teach him that money can't always fix everything. Max realized that no matter how rich you are, mistakes can happen. Even money can't undo a spill once it's on the floor. Max ran to his nanny, Lily, a kind woman asking for help. She smiled and said, "Even small mistakes teach big lessons." Lily gave Max a small cloth and said, "Let's clean together." Max realized helping yourself can feel better than someone fixing things for you. Max felt proud. He understood that wealth is great, but learning responsibility and helping yourself is even more valuable. Max told his friend in the city park, "Even little mistakes can teach you big lessons if you try to fix them yourself." Max learned that mistakes are normal, but responsibility and helping yourself teaches more than money ever could. A rich heart beats money every time.
Yes, a rich heart beats money. That's something we all can learn from and definitely remember. And let's get into our prayer of Jabez. So God, please bless us with more than we need so we can be a blessing to others. And God, give us influence so that we can make a difference. God, make us aware of your presence, and God, protect us from every attack of the devil. And as Jabez said in 1 Chronicles 4 and 10, Jabez cried out to God, to the God of Israel, "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me and keep me from harm so that I will be free from pain." And God granted his request. So just know that God is able to grant our request when we go to him earnestly in prayer. And a lot of times we don't see it immediately. We're thinking, God's not hearing me, God's not listening to me. It's all about timing. And God's timing is perfect and ours isn't. Right? We think, okay, I want this right now. But maybe there's some things that you need to learn and go through before you get that blessing. Right? So that you appreciate it more, you respect it more, and it means more because of what you went through. There are definitely times you need to go through things before God can give you anything. Now, with that, there's some clips we're going to get into today. The first one now we're going to get into is I saw this exchange with Josh Hawley on X. I was just, it made me take a triple take. I was like, what? Huh? I shouldn't be laughing like I am, but it just lets me know that the social contagion mind virus is real. That's what I'm calling it. The social contagion and mind virus of biological identity. And the reason why I call it a social contagion is because socially, people feel like, oh, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, so I need to adapt and I need to. No. And the virus, the mind virus, it's how it's spreading. Yeah. So I'm coining that phrase, the social contagion mind virus of biological identity. So let's check out this exchange.
It up. Why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
There are many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor,
I think. Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence, and I'm asking you. The United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor, and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
extraordinary.
Male with
no, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological.
You're not going to answer my question.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Again, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push.
I'm not trying to be polarizing. I'm trying to ask. I think it is extraordinary that we are here in a hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men. We are here about the safety of women and science that shows that this abortion drug causes adverse health events in 11% of cases. That's 22 times greater than the FDA label, another fact you haven't acknowledged. And yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science if you won't level with this on this basic issue. I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients, and I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
It is not polarizing to say that there is a scientific difference between men and women, and I want this to be clear and for the record. It is not polarizing to say that women are a biological reality and should be treated and protected as such. That is not polarizing, that is truth. It is also, by the way, the United States Constitution, which offers unique protections to women in a variety of circumstances as women. And your refusal to recognize women as women and men as men is deeply corrosive to science, to public trust, and yes, to constitutional protections for women as women. And I think it's extraordinary that you would sit here and advance a political agenda that has been thoroughly discredited and rejected by the American people in this forum. And I'm glad we had this exchange because it is exceptionally clarifying. It is also in many ways quite depressing. I see that my time has nearly expired. I just want to thank the other witnesses for being here. Thank you for protecting women and children. Thank you for your valiant efforts. Thank you for following the science. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this hearing.
Senator also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since you
I take care of many women. I take care.
First of all, I wouldn't want her to be my doctor. Dude, you can't determine what a man is or what a woman is. You can't say that men cannot get pregnant. You know why? Because they have sperm. They do not have a womb to carry a baby. That's not how men were designed. Period. Women have a womb. We are designed, because I'm a woman, to have children. Period. It's real simple. And I love how Representative Hawley called her out because she was like, you're making this political. He's like, no, you're making this political. Because see, your ideology says that men can be women and vice versa. That's what your ideology says, doctor. Now, he didn't get into it like that, but I would have went at her like that. That's your ideology. That's what you believe. Belief. Now, is it a religion? Are we in a cult where your cult says that men can have babies? Because they can't. Because a woman who says, I identify as a man and gets pregnant, that's what they're looking at. Like, no, you're biologically a woman. That's why you're able to have a baby. Stop being confusing. And this is another thing that's confusing to me. This is kind of like off topic tangent, but I got to address it. Why is it that women who are lesbians and do what you want to do, that's your life, that's your choice. Why do you want, in some cases, a female, she wants to be with another female, but that female is masculine? You already stated that you don't like men. Then why do you want to be with a masculine female? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, if you know, like, let's just say, for example, Tyra Banks and Naomi Campbell get together. I'm like, wow, they're beautiful. And they're together. Okay, I get it. They like women. You know, it's like women that like women. Okay, cool. But when you get a Tyra Banks that is walking around with, you're like, that's not a man, that's a woman. Like, why do you want to be with a masculine female? If you say you don't like men, because it's weird. Because that's weird. But again, it still goes back to the question. And I just want to clarify it for everybody out there. No, men cannot get pregnant. They cannot. And that doctor to sit there and say, I have many patients that identify and all this, she needs to have her license taken away and stripped and never be allowed to practice medicine anywhere with anyone ever. But that is the social contagion, mind virus of biological identity. And we saw it played out. And Uncle Coldwater, good morning. He said he just watched that. It's sad that the Democrats just refused to do the right thing or say the right thing or do anything right. You're so correct. It is very sad. It is very sad. But that's where they're at. That's where they're That's where their minds are at. All right, now this next video we're going to get into, there's still people are still out there thinking that these ICE agents are not going to apprehend them and that they can still ram their cars into ICE agents. Let's check this out.
Texas plates. Come out of the car. Come out of the car. Come out of the car. Open the window. Go. He's in proceedings. He's good to go. Let me get my brake. Go in the window.
Watch out behind you. Watch out. Holy. Watch out in front of you. Watch out in front.
Refusing to get out of the car.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Yeah.
Cut it off. Cut it off. Now. Cut it off. Turn off the car. Cut the car off. Cut off. Come out of the car. Now. Come out of the car. Come out. Now. 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 Hey. Hey.
All right, here with reaction, ICE Director Todd Lyons. Todd, I mean, if that doesn't educate the public about these ramming incidents, I don't know what else will, on top of what happened. You know, previously, we now have 3 in recent days. Very dangerous now. Do you tie a lot of this danger to the rhetoric of people like Tim Walz, who compares ICE to Gestapo?
Yeah, Sean, unfortunately, when we hear elected officials calling upon individuals to impede or obstruct, ICE law enforcement operations nationwide, you're going to see incidents like this. And that was a video you're probably not going to see on mainstream media, right? That actually shows exactly what's happening. You saw the officers and agents attempting to apprehend a criminally illegal alien, and there they are using their weapon, using their car as a weapon. The lead vehicle, the ICE vehicle, the gray one that was struck, that officer had to go to the hospital with neck injuries. And every day, Sean, this is what the men and women of ICE are facing. It's constant impediments, constant attacks like this. And, it's not safe for my folks. It's not safe for the public. It really needs to stop.
What do you make of these groups that have instructions on how to confront and basically fight with ICE agents? They call it a micro-antifada, and I can go into all the details of it. I'm sure you're closely aware of it. But we're talking about a strategy laid out by groups of people to make your jobs harder and obstruct justice. Should those people be arrested?
100%, Sean. Any law enforcement officer will tell you, it's a constitutional right, go out there and protest. But when you have organized criminal gangs, which these are, that are organizing these groups to, again, impede or obstruct law enforcement operations, lawful law enforcement agents, enacting the laws that Congress has written, that's a criminal act. And I will tell you that Homeland Security investigations, my folks, the FBI, we're investigating these, and people are going to be held accountable because you can't organize groups to go out and impede law enforcement. It's a criminal act, and we have to act swiftly to cause this from spreading.
Do you have a response to Philadelphia's DA threatening to prosecute ICE agents, which, by the way, is not constitutional, but putting that aside, do you have a response for that DA?
Sean, what I'll say is the men and women of ICE, the men and women of ERO, the men and women of HSI, they're not committing any crimes. So he doesn't have to worry about arresting any of my folks, because what we're doing is we're enforcing the law. We are out there every day making this nation and his city safe again. So he shouldn't worry about the men and women of ICE. What he should worry about is the sanctuary policies that have these criminal aliens go back into his neighborhoods and commit heinous crimes like fentanyl trafficking, human trafficking, rape of a child. He should focus on those and let law enforcement do law enforcement work.
All right, Director Lyons, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube.
It is truly sad that we have governors and mayors that have such a personal, emotional state that they're using it in a political fashion, right? And it's harming their constituents. It's like, I get it. You don't like Donald Trump. I don't care. ICE has been around longer than Donald Trump. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Do you know what I mean? What is wrong with you? 9/11 happened before Donald Trump ran for office. Okay. The ICE agents were put in place after the Patriot Act. Okay. Bush was in office. This was before Obama was in office, what we call the deporter in chief. Yeah, that individual that deported more people than Trump. But hey, maybe he's on track to do more. Is that what you're mad about? Is that what you're upset about? Is that what we're doing? Because ICE agents have been around, again, longer than Donald Trump. So what are you really upset about? Is it that you can't agree to do anything that Donald Trump did? Because if you do, then it's like, oh my gosh, you're agreeing with him. No, stop. Let people do their jobs. But now you're putting people in danger and in harm's way. What's next? It's crazy. Now we're going to transition a little bit. And we are going to get into something that happened with HUD. It said that they found 500 people dead. Is like really intense. So let's get into this.
Fraud scandal in Minnesota that captured the media's attention has spurred action across the Trump administration. Of course, that was the underlying fraud that brought the Homeland Security up there that's created what we see all this conflict. It's interesting you compare the Trump administration to the Biden administration. You might recall this. The Biden administration, after the overturn of Roe v. Wade, they wanted a whole of government approach to trying to advance abortion. And they figured out several ways to do it. The Trump administration really has a whole of government response to this corruption and this fraud that's taking place in Minnesota. And what we're finding out is like an onion. It's layer upon layer. Well, last week, the administration announced the creation of a new division in the Justice Department for national fraud enforcement, because it apparently goes beyond the boundaries of the borders of Minnesota. And the Agriculture Department announced its suspension of federal financial awards to Minnesota and Minneapolis. Well, last month, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, sent federal employees into Minneapolis and St. Paul to conduct their own investigation. And what have they found out? Well, joining me now we're going to, in just a moment, we're going to be joined by the Secretary of Department of Housing and Urban Development, Scott Turner, to give us an update on what his department has discovered there in Minneapolis and Minnesota. But and we now have him. Secretary Turner, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you, Tony. So good to be with you, sir. Always. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Now, we were just talking about the investigation that you've launched into Minneapolis and into St. Paul. I realize the investigation is going to take some time, but what can you tell us about your department's efforts on this and what you've found so far?
Yes, sir, Tony. Thank you. So we have boots on the ground in Minnesota. And through our fraud prevention, we have found that there is likely over $84 million in eligible assistance that was given to the state of Minnesota during the Biden administration, including almost $500,000 in improper assistance to over 500 dead tenants. And so you think about that, Tony, over $84 million of hardworking taxpayer money that was shelled out during the Biden administration in improper assistance and serving over 500 dead people with almost $500,000 of assistance. This is a lack of stewardship. It's gross negligence. But I'm grateful at this time that our team on the ground has found these improper payments, and we will hold those accountable that are responsible for this.
Hey, Secretary Turner, when you look at this combined with what was happening in the daycare, I mean, this looks like it's coordinated. It looks like this is a criminal conspiracy. It doesn't just look like people taking advantage of another government program that doesn't have the proper oversight.
No, it is. It seems like it is coordinated, and every stone that's being unturned shows us really the negligence and turning a blind eye and the lack of financial controls and really the lack of caring about the American people and taxpayer money that goes to fund these programs in Minnesota and other places around the country. And so I know under President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, the vice president, who now has announced a new associate attorney general to go after fraud, waste, and abuse in our country. I'm so glad that we have this opportunity to be transparent before the American people and root out this fraud and bring those to justice who have really criminalized the programs that were meant to help American people in need.
What is the connection between this fraud and abuse of taxpayer money and illegal immigration?
Well, as you know, over 12 million people came across our border, illegal migrants, illegal aliens came across unchecked, which has really caused the housing supply in our country to be squeezed. It's caused the cost of housing to go up. Nearly 100% of the rental demand in states like New York and California is due to illegal immigration. And so this has been a great burden on our country, but I'm thankful to the President, to Secretary Nome, Mr. Holman, and others that have secured our border. Just here at HUD, we found that over 59% of illegal alien families use one or more of our welfare programs here in America, costing about $42 billion a year. And so with that, we have to turn the faucet off and use American taxpayer money to serve the American people and American people only. And we are very intentional and focused on that at HUD as it pertains to housing and the programs that come out of our agency.
Secretary, we just have about 45 seconds left. You've been partnering with the faith community and churches to address homelessness nationwide. Very quickly, tell us about that.
Yes, sir. You know, we want to allow and bring the faith-based organizations back to the table as it pertains to serving our homeless neighbors. During the Biden administration, they really were, quote unquote, stiff-armed and could not come to the table to compete for our Continuum of Care competitive grant. So now we want to open that back up. Faith-based organizations like Our Calling and others around the country are really the ones with boots on the ground serving our homeless neighbors. And we don't want to just house people, Tony. We want to house them, treat the root cause, get them transformed, and back to a life of independence.
Secretary Turner, always great to see you, my friend. I know you've got a special project coming up for the 250th. We'll get you back on to talk about that. Thanks for joining us. The massive fraud.
So it's just sad what's going on in Minnesota. And it's weird that they're the epicenter because all the states have some level of fraud, right? We just have to be honest about that. But I guess because how concentrated it was, how expansive it has become, that's the point of why Minnesota is the epicenter. And they continue to want to protect it. It's really weird. It's really because they've had, whistleblowers come out, they've had other people come out, and, there are still people that want to protect this fraud. There are still people caping for it. It's like, you're going to get found out, right? You might go to prison. I don't know if you still want to, keep pushing that envelope. But anyway, on to our next article. Now, I came across this, and actually, Dr. Pamela Denise Long, she did a video on TikTok, and she shared it with me, and I was like, I hadn't seen this interview. So I pulled up the interview with Tucker Carlson, and I guess he is a candidate for governor in Florida. He's running against Byron Donalds. His name's James Fishback. And he made a very interesting point about Byron Donalds. So I wanted to share this with you guys.
That tells you everything you need to know about my opponent, Byron Donalds.
Well, I know Byron, and I've always gotten along with him. He's super cheerful. I didn't realize, is he ideological? I've never detected that.
No. That's why I call him a slave.
Yeah. And they called you a racist for that?
They did. which is actually quite interesting because I got a call from the Foundational Black American Society here in Florida who reminded me that Byron's mother is Jamaican, he is Panamanian, and they found it quite insulting, in their words, that he would try to claim victimhood of slavery without a single descendant of American slaves in his family.
I like those foundational guys.
They're so good.
Tariq Nasheed and all. I mean, I don't agree with everything, but like they've got a perspective. If your family's been here 400 years, and the descendants of a lot of American slaves or families have been here 400 years, I don't know. I think that gives. I'll listen to you. Like you've
100%.
got, you've got a point of view that is legitimate. I think.
Yeah. And they're unequivocally heritage Americans.
That's for sure.
100%.
They're definitely heritage Americans, if anyone is. And, someone rolls in from Ghana and gets an MSNBC slot and starts speaking on behalf of black people. It's like, shut up, honey. You've got nothing to do with this.
Right.
That's
Literally.
a fair perspective,
right.
I think.
And so it's good to actually see them call them out for that. That's actually cultural appropriation. Appropriating the struggle of slavery.
I totally agree.
And the struggle of slavery was real. I don't think Republicans ever want to really whitewash that. It's real, right? But for
We're
Byron,
against slavery.
We're against it.
Whether it's in the, West Bank or here or anywhere. Yeah, against it.
And so for Byron's group, his team, to call me and essentially our entire supporting base racists for saying that you're a slave when quite literally you took $45 million. You won't tell us what you agreed to take that money this early in a primary, which is unprecedented. You know this, how unprecedented that kind of money is in an uncontested primary until now. But secondarily, to actually go out and try to gaslight us and think that you're just one of those guys that has been here, since the early 1800s and your family was in the struggle too. You're not. And that's a very interesting term that the Foundational Black Americans use. It's called tether. They're tethering these tethers like Byron Donalds. They come here literally one generation in, and they try to just sit around and act so folksy that we're all part of the same struggle and we're all down on and we need to fight against. No, you just got here, dude. Like the Haitians, like the guys from Ghana who just got here, you don't get to just be a part of our system and then lecture us about how our country went wrong.
Well, and if you're a Republican, supposedly conservative Republican, to throw around the term racist, I mean, that's what I'll speak for myself. I voted against that in November last year.
Right.
I don't like that style of non-argument. Just dismiss someone off the top. You're a bad person. I don't have to respond to your specific charge against me. I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
I thought aren't we opposed to that? Identity politics?
100%.
Yeah, 100%. So I really enjoyed that exchange between them. But then I remembered there was another exchange that Mr. Byron Donalds had, I want to say about a year ago.
Position on reparations. I don't believe in reparations. I don't.
Good. Next. Well, then you don't believe in the black community.
Of all black people in the country, how many of them are actually descendants of slaves? Because you've had a lot of immigration over the last 100 years in America. Am I eligible for reparations right now? I would say the answer is no, I'm not. Because my family is from Jamaica. My father's Panamanian. His grandparents were born in Panama. My father immigrated to the United States. So does that make me eligible? So you got to go through all of that. So if you're going to talk about reparations, today what you're talking about is taking money from other Americans. 2/3 of the American people did not go to college. Is it okay for Joe Biden to say, well, we're going to forgive student loans, even though 2/3 did not go to college? It is now the debt burden of the...
Now I got to stop him there because that's ideologically just inept. First of all, some of those loans that he was talking about forgiving were federal loans. Now, if you can forgive companies federal debt, if you can take those PPP loans and forgive those and call them grants, yes, you can forgive student loan debt, sir. You can, especially if they're federal. Now, when it comes to people that took out personal loans, right? Because there are some parents that did that. They took out personal loans. Can you go in and say, hey, maybe we can look at lowering the interest rates, right? Like Trump is trying to lower the interest rates with these credit card companies from 29% to 10%. Hey, can't we tell these companies like, hey, you're charging like loan shark prices, 13, 14% on these loans. Let's lower the interest rate. Okay, because some people do have debt the size of a mortgage for their education, so people can actually pay the debt off, right? Make it manageable. But to say that the federal government can't forgive student loan debt is a lie, because they can. They do whatever they want to do. You send billions of dollars over in the blink of an eye, and the American people are like, hey, why did you send my tax dollars over there? There are some people that agree with reparations. There are some people that don't agree with reparations. But guess what? Reparations is the failure of our federal government in their fiduciary duty to protect freed slaves. They failed. We do have an argument, and we do have a case and standing to say, federal government, you failed. You need to repair us for continual and habitual harm till this day. Because guess where the immigrants ended up in? The Black community. When they went to Martha's Vineyard, they put them on buses and shipped them out. They did not make schools for them. They did not make room for them. They did not make homes for them. They did not take them in. They returned them to wherever they could be. But they didn't take care of them. And they predominantly ended up in the Black community, like in Chicago, Illinois. And the Black community is still suffering harm again till this day. So that's my argument with Byron Donalds. But let's let him continue.
2/3 of the American people that did not go. I will tell you the answer is no.
Yeah, you can say the answer is no, but the argument still stands, because guess what? If you could give reparations for Chinese Americans, right? And they should have gotten it because they were put into concentration camps. I don't have a disagreement with that. Why are we paying reparations for people who went through the Holocaust when it didn't happen here? And yes, that's on the books. And yes, that is happening. And yes, our tax dollars do go to that annually. It's happening right now as we speak. But for the very people that built up this country and you harmed them, harming their descendants, which I am one of, yes, you are going to repair and restore us because you're in the business of doing it. You did it with the Indians. Shall I keep going? You keep repairing people, but when the American Negro says, hey, it's time to repair us, it's like, oh, we don't have the money. We can't do this. We can't afford it. Stop it. You can't afford not to at this point. We need to build this country up back into the greatness that we know we can be. And that starts with repair. Okay. So now I'm going to transition a little bit. I'm going to talk about some things, and then we're going to, get back to the repair conversation, because I definitely have some videos and I want to get into that. But there is a letter apparently going around for the United States, for individuals of the United States Postal Office, very similar to the letter that we saw in, I guess, 2020, where they were talking about essential workers. So let's check this out.
Quite a bit to catch you guys up on, but in this video, I want to run you through some of these things that are happening right now that you may not be aware of, that I think could be signaling something very big. And this starts with this letter that has gone out to mail carriers, to people who work for UPS and even contract workers, that has not gone out since 2020, and specifically for the pandemic. So we're going to get into that. And then also what is going on with these hospitals and the flu and everything else that's outbreaking that you're not going to see on the mainstream news quite that much. But let's get into it.
So does the U.S. Postal Service know something that we don't? And why do I say that? Because they issued a letter to both their employees and contractors, a letter that they have not given out since the pandemic. You heard what I said. The letter that they issued to both their employees and their contractors is a letter that they provided back in 2020 for the COVID pandemic. And the letter that I'm referring to is right behind me. It was issued to its postal employees and contractors on January 5th of 2026. The subject line reads, "Postal employees continue to provide essential services." And remember, the key word is essential. The letter also states inside that during large-scale emergencies, epidemics, emergencies, or even civil unrest, states and localities may issue curfew warnings and other directives such as restricted travel. So basically what the letter is saying, that if anything like that occurs, postal services are governed by federal law. So therefore, that places them in the essential category. And what's weird about it, the letter goes on to state, even though it's dated this year, that employees and contractors should carry this letter with them to and from work and as they work. And it also states that it's critical that all postal employees and its contractors carry their identification at all times. And it also goes on to tell them that if they encounter anyone, such as law enforcement, that stops them while they are traveling, they are to present this letter to them. So the question we need to be asking is, what is actually going on, or is possibly going to allegedly be happening, that this letter was issued with this year's date back on January 5th. Now, I know people will say, well, that's a standard issued letter. Okay, so if it's a bulletin, then it's a bulletin that they will just have, and in the event of something happening, they'll just have to get a copy of it. Am I correct? But why reissue it in the year 2026? So once again, the terms travel restrictions and essential employees are back in the year 2026. So once again, I guess my question to you is, what is going on, or what is about to occur? And if anyone out there is an employee of this right here, hit us up in the comments and let us know if you received that letter and why you received that letter, so we can get some clarification. I will leave it on this note. Hit me up in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you. Here's a copy of the letter. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can screen grab it and read it for yourself.
No need for that. I have the letter here, and understand people, I have another follow-up video with this, but people are, people who work for the post office. Not every postal worker has gotten this, or contractor, but a large portion of them. And it seems to be going out on a rolling basis. So daily we're seeing new people who are getting it. People who yesterday said, I didn't get it. They say, oh, today they handed it out. They're not emailing this. They're not just posting it on the bulletin board. They are being hand delivered and given this. And also told, I've been reading through the comments, told to keep it in their personal vehicle as well. Like, so not just to keep it on you at all times, but, and your badge, even in your own personal vehicle, which is insane. Guys, this is not standard issue. This isn't something that they put out all the time. That is a lie. If you've seen anything like that, or you see any comments or responses, no, this has not gone out since 2020, specifically for COVID. Okay, so this has been verified. We've been seeing this all over the place, but let me read it to you, then we'll get more into it. I'm just trying to see if I have like the best one. I'll just pick this first one. Okay, so I'm a little bit in the way, but I wanted to make it big enough so you guys could see it. So you see January 5th, Postal Service employees continue to provide essential services. The background: during large-scale emergencies, epidemics, hurricanes, civil unrest, states and localities may issue curfew orders or other directives restricting travel and other commercial and personal activities. Many of these orders will explicitly exempt providers of essential services, but some do not. Even if a state or local action does not contain such an exemption, the Postal Service's operations are governed by federal law. Therefore, we continue to fulfill our public service mission by accepting and delivering mail and packages in accordance with federal law. Although postal employees are essential workers that may be exempt from state and local directives, any operations can be conducted in a manner that protects the safety of our employees and the public. The Postal Service will continue working closely with federal, state, and local authorities to ensure that we are safely carrying out our mission during emergencies. So now employees and contractors should carry the essential services letter with them as they perform duties for the Postal Service and travel to and from work. Because state and local government restrictions do not apply to prevent Postal Service employees from reporting to and performing their work, all employees and contractors must be provided with a copy of the essential services letter attached in this memorandum. In an effort to assist employees who may be stopped and questioned by local law enforcement about their activities as a result of state or local legal directive restricting commercial or personal activities, the Postal Service is providing employees with this letter explaining the essential nature of Postal Service employees and contractors. This letter, in addition to the employees or contractors' postal identification badge, should resolve any questions raised by state or local law enforcement officials. Guys, we've had riots, we've had all types of things that have gone on. And since last summer, we have seen people say, well, is it going to be because the National Guard is going to different cities? But that's been going on since last summer. It didn't require this. Why is this going out right now? And we're in the middle of everything with Iran, Venezuela, Greenland, Russia. The list goes on and on, right? So any reason that you come up with that exists already, it doesn't make sense. It's already been happening, or it's not required. And there are no, in some of the states, this has been reported in cities, there is no National Guard. So why now is this so important? Why now? And again, this has not gone out since 2020, 6 years during COVID, right? It is critical that all employees and contractors carry their postal ID badge with them at all times. So even when you're not working, because it doesn't say that you carry your badge while working. No, it's critical that you have your badge, employees and contractors carry their postal ID badge with them all the time. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense to you? Even when they're not performing their duties? Okay. If encountered or stopped by state or local law enforcement officials enforcing travel restrictions, this is very strange though, because I just want to put it out here. During COVID, yes, there was a lockdown, businesses closed up, but there was not law enforcement officials enforcing travel restrictions on the ground. At least I didn't see, not in mass in every state where these letters are going out.
Now, I want to just pause her right there because I actually did get a similar letter for the company that I was contracting with at the time. And it was very similar to this. And it said that your duties are essential. If you are to be stopped by law enforcement, just show them this letter. And it did encourage us to keep a copy of the letter in our vehicle and on us and a copy of the letter on us at all times, along with our work badge. So, like I said, I got a duplicate letter. I don't know if I still have it or if I can find the email for it, but it was really freaky because I was like, and to her point, it wasn't like there were checkpoints anywhere, right? Where police were walking up to you, can you be outside? It wasn't like that. Right. So it stated it, but that activity wasn't there. Now, it may have been in some states and people might have had that personal occurrence and experience. But like I said, I got a similar letter like that, talking about being an essential worker.
So I would love to compare. I'll see if I can find an original letter from 2020 and compare it and see if it has that same language. Maybe it's just standard. I know this letter isn't standard, but maybe the language in it is just standard. But why would law enforcement be restricting the rest of our travel? The postal employer or contractor should identify themselves as a postal service employee, show the official their postal issued ID badge, and provide a copy of the letter with this information to the official. The state or local officials should allow employees and contractors to continue their travel or work. However, if the employees or contractors run into any issues, they should contact their supervisor or manager. Questions regarding this process should be elevated to your area or headquarters law office. Huh?
It's weird. It's weird.
Your area or headquarters law office. And this is Doug Tulino, who is the Postmaster General.
Follow-up video to the post I posted 2 days ago about the letter sent out by the U.S. Postal Service. This letter hasn't gone out since COVID, telling the postal workers that they need to carry this essential letter in their ID to bypass any travel restrictions. I want you to look at some of the comments that have been made on this post, because I just asked for postal workers to, hey, is this real? And a lot of you in some states said that you have not seen this, and there's a lot of states that have. So here are the states that have seen the letter, and here are some of the comments. Take a look. Okay, check this one out. USPS employee in Iowa, our entire office received the letter. Minnesota employees got this as well. Iowa here, I got the letter. Same here in Oklahoma. Here in Minnesota, received it Thursday, and they actually put a copy of their letter that they received. All right, how about this one? My husband is a USPS worker in Oregon and got one just before COVID, and just another one this week. I'm a postal employee, and this is true. Which state? New York. Postal worker here too. It's been in the USPS groups, I guess they're chats. Some areas have received them, so not everybody. Okay, welcome Tennessee. I work in Tennessee, and we were given the letter last week. This person says they weren't mailed, they were actually handed out in the Minnesota office this week. We got our letter today, Northwest Rochester. This is on 110. Another one in Tennessee, received it last week. Okay, so those are just a few of the comments on here, and I welcome any other comments from postal workers around the area. It looks like Tennessee, Oregon, Iowa, New York, obviously Minnesota, have gotten the letter. Any other states out there? Drop a comment and let us know.
So while that letter has gone out, we are seeing record-breaking cases of this new flu, symptoms that doctors have never seen before. It is, you cannot prevent this flu by getting the flu vaccine. I'm not getting a vaccine anyway. But understand, it is ravaging people's bodies for days, weeks. People are dying. Specifically, a lot of children have died. I think the death toll now is over 6,000. Children are dying everywhere from it, but you're not seeing it really talked about that much, okay? And they're also talking about monkeypox is breaking out. Guys, we're getting hit with all of these different things at once. So let's look at this.
Stay with me till the end. This one affects families everywhere, and it may be connected to the mystery illness we have been tracking. Follow now so you don't lose this later. Hospitals and schools across the U.S. are quietly tightening restrictions, and it's because of a flu strain that's spreading way faster than expected. It's being called the H3N2 subclade K superflu, and cases are rising in over 36 states. Some hospitals are already stepping into emergency-style protocols. At the Detroit Medical Center, the flu positivity rate jumped from 2% to 20% almost overnight. Visitor rules are changing. No kids under 12, limited guests, and if you're 13 plus but sick, you're not getting in. Several schools in Missouri and Iowa have already shut down classes entirely. One Catholic school in Missouri closed after waves of students fell ill all at once. Doctors are saying this strain is new to a lot of immune systems, meaning it hits harder. Symptoms to watch: fever, chills, fatigue, headaches, cough, body aches. Nobody's saying panic, just awareness.
And I want to say this, guys, specifically doctors, and I know from my experience with it, I don't know which variant I had. I'm feeling better now, right? But depending on your health, depending on who you are, that's going to depend on how bad it hits you, or if you could possibly pass away from it. But it is specifically hitting the GI tract, meaning vomiting, diarrhea, which is very unusual for the flu. So they have never seen this, these symptoms with the GI tract being affected so badly, which lets us know that this is not a normal flu. They're just labeling it as a flu.
Public health officials are urging people to stay alert, take precautions, and get checked if symptoms escalate. I want to hear from you. Are your kids getting hit with this? Where are you
there's a lot that
located?
goes into
What
this, but
symptoms
this
are
is
you seeing?
also
And
affecting
what remedies,
hospitals
natural or
and
otherwise, have
people
helped?
being able to get into the hospital. And essentially, like he said, that they are, even some hospitals now are setting up quarantine tents outside of the normal hospital. Yes, quarantine tents.
Hospitals are canceling planned surgeries, not because of staffing drama, but because flu patients have taken over the beds. This is what happens when a healthcare system lives at the edge of capacity all year. Hospitals across the United States are postponing elective surgeries because flu admissions are overwhelming emergency departments and inpatient units. At Unity Point Health Des Moines, surgeries requiring overnight stays are delayed through January 13th just to preserve beds. Nationally, flu hospitalizations are exploding. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention data, more than 33,000 people were hospitalized with influenza in a single week, and the peak has not even hit yet. Pediatric hospitals are getting crushed. At UNC Children's Hospital, the emergency department is at capacity, with staff literally trying to create space any way they can. New York reported over 4,500 flu hospitalizations in 1 week, the highest ever recorded. At NYU Lagoon Health, emergency departments were packed early and hard this season. So, as a nurse, here is the part people miss. This is not just a bad flu year. Hospitals already operate near full capacity year round. Nearly 70% of inpatient beds are occupied on a normal week. So, when flu surges, there is no buffer. Elective surgeries get delayed, ED wait times explode, and patient safety risks rise across the board. This is what happens when efficiency replaces resilience in healthcare.
But guys, that's not just it. So I'm online, I'm doing research on things, and then all of a sudden I see all this popping up about Verizon being down. But it's not just Verizon, which I'm going to show you for in a second. But like nearly half the country they're showing is out right now, and it's wild, guys. It's wild.
No, it's not just you. Verizon is actually down. Here's what you need to know. Around about 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a lot of reports started coming out around Down Detector, about 115,000 people saying that Verizon was not working for them. Lots of people voiced their frustrations online, and Verizon did make an official statement on X talking about what's going on and that they're trying to solve it. But for the time being, here are a few tips. So if you see an SOS signal on your phone, that does indicate that your phone is not getting any cellular service, but the SOS feature on iPhones is available if you need to make an emergency call or text. There is a built-in guide on Tom's Guide on how to check that out, so go to Tom's Guide to read more about how to use SOS in emergency situations. And keep in mind, even though you may not be affected yet, it might still happen, so you might want to keep an eye out on Down Detector and GeoBlock, which does a really good job of showing the areas around the country that are currently being affected. It seems to mainly be the East Coast, but it's also starting to scatter around the West Coast as well. So stay safe out there, guys, and be sure to keep up with Tom's Guide's live blog to see the status of Verizon's outage.
But I wanted to show you guys Down Detector because, like I said, it's not.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it real quick. I'm not sponsored by Starlink, but check it out. I'm just saying, because if you have at least satellite internet or satellite communication, it does bypass the regular cable providers because, see, they are at the behest of what happens within the atmosphere. Outside of the atmosphere, their satellites really don't help when it comes to actual internet. So Starlink is something to look into, or they have something called a Bibby, Bibby, that you can look into, but that's still satellite based.
Just Verizon. Simultaneously, it's Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, Xfinity, Fios, of course, because that is Verizon. But that doesn't make sense because isn't that like cable?
Yeah.
Okay. US Cellular, Amazon Web Services, Google, Apple support, Instacart, Visible, I don't know what that is, and Cricket Wireless. Does that make any sense to you? And just understand the thing going down doesn't mean that it's not happening. In fact, I'll show you this. Verizon is still addressing this. It hasn't been fixed. Let me show you on this. So yeah, this is Verizon. All their accounts, I looked for it. Yeah, they, as of about an hour ago with no update, Verizon engineering teams are continuing to address today's service interruptions. Our teams remain fully deployed and are focused on the issue. We understand the impact this has on your day and remain committed to resolving this as quickly as possible. So understand, just because on that down detector it looked like it's going down, that just means that like that huge spike happens when everyone goes online trying to figure out what's going on. And then as more and more people realize or just continue to search for answers, then they are reporting. So it's less cases being reported at that moment, but it is still ongoing. And all of these services are out. I will tell you the main thing in all of this, though, that I have reported on today. I got to do more about the flu or whatever this mystery illness is. It is absolutely devastating for everyone, but especially so many children dying. We haven't seen these types of numbers before, but I think it's the letter to the postal workers that we have not seen since 2020 for COVID. It makes absolutely no sense why that would go out, because every day it's something new, because we are in the last days, and this doesn't even begin to touch with everything that is happening. I have some more updates about the Board of Peace and all of that, so we'll get into that in another video. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell. Jesus Christ is returning. You need to be saved. I'm telling you now. Everything is converging at once. And that is the only thing that will save us. Not a government, not a politician, nothing, not a country, right? Because we're moving into a global system, and they've made it crystal clear that we are, if you are paying attention. So with that, I will see you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad she brought this up though, because it does beg the question, why are you sending out this kind of letter now? We're not under a pandemic. We're not under, any type of civil unrest to the degree where people are in fear for their lives at any juncture. I'm just saying, we're not there. So why are you sending out that type of letter, and specifically left in the word civil unrest? And by the way, and the whole down detector thing, Starlink, she didn't go down to Starlink. She should have, because they weren't out. So if you got Starlink, you're good. I mean, they're smuggling Starlinks into, what is it, Iran or whatever, where their civil unrest is going on, because they had an internet blackout, because the government can control that internet. Let me say that again. The government can control that internet. See, the government can't control Starlink. I may not like everything Mr. Musk does, but I guarantee you I'm getting Starlink, because it is far better than any cable internet service that you can get right now. It's the it thing right now. Again, I'm not a super fan of Mr. Musk, but I will say I respect the grind and I respect the technology. Not a fan of Neuralink, but I respect everything else that he is doing. And I wanted to just go over that video just briefly here. And it says the validity of the letter. The letter shown in the video is authentic and was indeed issued by the USPS on January 5th, 2026. It was signed by Doug A. Tolino, and he's the Deputy Postmaster General and Chief Operating Officer. It's a resurgence of an essential Services letter similar to one distributed during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, reminding employees of their exempt status under federal law from state or local restrictions like curfews or travel bans during emergencies. Multiple USPS employees have confirmed receiving a receiving it via social media forums, with distribution occurring on a rolling basis across states like Iowa, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Oregon, New York, and Tennessee. A USPS spokesperson described it as a standard reissuance, not a new policy, and it's intended to ensure continuity of mail services. Okay, you're saying it's standard. If it's a standard reissuance, why wasn't it reissued in 23, 24, 22? You did it in 2020 and you didn't do it anymore. You didn't reissue it. You didn't put it out there again. How was it standard 6 years later? That's not standard. In my opinion, it's a setup. And it talks about the video, the outlet, because I asked to give a timeline of events. Now it says, because I did ask about civil unrest, it says there is no single mandatory timeline that must be followed by law for every pandemic or civil unrest scenario, as responses depend on the specifics of the event jurisdiction and evolving conditions. However, the U.S. government has established frameworks based on past experiences with COVID-19 and legal authorities. Below is a high-level outline of typical phases drawn from federal guidelines and historical precedents, right? So for a pandemic, the U.S. response generally follows phases outlined in CDC timelines and national emergency declarations. Okay, so detection and initial assessment, declaration, mobilization, containment, mitigation, vaccination, and recovery. Now, that is basically on the health spectrum, right? Now, with civil unrest, and this goes back to historical and legal precedents, responses escalate from local to federal levels with martial law as a rare last resort. So, key phases: local response, state level escalation, federal involvement, martial law. Okay, those are the steps. And I asked, can you pull relevant information from the CDC or FEMA that have discussed something similar for 2026, right? So the CDC information on similar topics for 2026, the CDC has not issued a specific letter or directive mirroring the USPS Essential Services letter for 2026, but it has provided ongoing updates and guidance related to 2025-26 influenza season, which includes discussions on essential workers in the context of past pandemics and current preparedness. Much of this draws from lessons learned during COVID-19, emphasizing the role of essential workers in maintaining operations during outbreaks. Okay, so we've got the influenza outlook season for right now, currently. Then they've got essential workers in pandemic context, and then the broader preparedness, right? So for FEMA, it's similar, but FEMA has not released a specific letter or directive akin to USPS 1, but its guidance on critical infrastructure and essential services during pandemics and civil unrest emphasizes continuity and exemptions similar to those in the USPS letter. FEMA's frameworks are designed for ongoing preparedness, drawing from COVID-19 and other events. Okay, so we have that. So overall, both agencies focus on preparedness frameworks from COVID-19, adaptable to the 25-26 flu season or unrest, but without a direct equivalent to the USPS letter for 26. So I find it very fascinating that both of these areas, they don't have a specific letter, but they do keep you, they have kept us updated, just in case something happens. So why are you doing this letter, USPS? I guess that's, to me, that's the bigger question. Why the letter if the CDC and FEMA are on high alert? To, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, they're not out here going, oh my gosh, we have this. They're not doing that. But you have a letter similar to 2020. Did you jump the gun? Were you not supposed to release this? Or did you release it thinking, okay, we need to get ahead of this? What are you getting ahead of? Because to Melanie's point, I haven't heard a lot about these cases with these children dying from the flu. Have you? I haven't. Nobody's been that upset about it. Now, see, when we were going through the pandemic the first time, everybody was like, cases, 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 not deaths, not people recovering, just cases. Yes, they had cases, even if they were false. Didn't matter. They still counted as a case. So what are we doing now? That, to me, that's just the bigger question that is going on. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we return. We are going just to do some little highlighting that I would like to do as we go into the celebration for Martin Luther King next week on January 19th. So with that, we will see you on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles, and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bytes can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments. So it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question. Do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And so the next bit of news we're going to get into, I really wanted to look at Dr. Martin Luther King. And, in recent years, as I've been, I would say more involved in social media, there have been people to praise him, and there have been people to criticize him, and there have been people to expose some things that went on that maybe we didn't know or understand. But the one thing that we cannot take away from everything that he did in totality is his influence, right? There are people still today that quote his I Have a Dream speech to incorporate it even in their speeches. And that happened at the inauguration of, close to this time last year. So his life, in his personal life, I think everybody deals with their own personal demons. And there are things that go on behind closed doors in a lot of people's lives that you don't know of, that you would probably be shocked by. And they are influential leaders, right? So You know, I'm not going to sit here and say he was a perfect man because no man is perfect. And whatever he was going through within his personal life, he went through it. But it doesn't take away from the good that came from his actions. You know, the whole thing with LBJ, I think that was, he was used, in my opinion, to move the Black people or the Black community towards the Democratic Party and say, you know, this party is going to look out for us and help us. And when he discovered that the Democratic Party was not there to help Black Americans, unfortunately, he lost his life. Now, there were two people who always claimed that they were there with him, alongside him, and they were there. The Reverend Jesse Jackson and also the Reverend Al Sharpton, and they are still alive today. But they have gone along with the harms that are still being imposed on Black Americans to this day, and they never speak up about it. They're never helping Black Americans, truly. They're not. I find it really, really interesting. So we're going to get into, you know, there's 3 different videos that I pulled because I wanted to show a different perspective. And so the first one I wanted to play was a video that some people have seen circulating on the internet that talks about how Dr. King says we're coming to get our check. So I wanted to play that video first. And it's interesting. Did you guys catch the part where he says they were paid not to farm? They were subsidized by the federal government not to farm. Why would you do that after going through a depression where people starve to death? Why would you do that? Because if you control the food, you can control the people. If you control the water, you can control the people. If you control transportation, you can control the people. Do you see where this is all coming? See where this is kind of that little circle is coming? Yeah. Yeah. It's thing. And I know a lot of you are probably like, why isn't she reading the comments? I need a moderator. Okay. I can't read through all of you guys' comments and do the show and do my research stuff. So if anybody out there would love to volunteer to be a moderator for me and help me, that would be awesome. But I do appreciate all of the comments that you guys have submitted. And I hope that you guys are having, you know, some good civil discourse between yourselves within the comment section. Just make sure you're keeping it respectful. And I appreciate all of you joining me here on the show today. Now, the next speech I wanted to play for you guys is apparently a reparations speech that few have heard. I think it was dropped a couple of months or maybe a year ago. I hadn't seen it myself personally. So I wanted to share this with you guys.
So we suffer from a kind of poverty of the spirit, which stands in glaring contrast to our scientific and technological abundance. The problem is, my friends, that we have learned to fly the air like birds, and we have learned to swim the seas like fish, and yet we haven't learned to walk the earth like brothers and sisters. Racial injustice is still the black man's burden and the white man's shame. So wherever we live in America, have to face the fact honestly that racial discrimination is present. So don't get complacent. Certainly we've made some strides. We made some progress here and there, but it hadn't been enough. It hadn't been fast enough. And although we've come a long, long way, we still have a long, long way to go. In 1863, the Negro was freed from the bondage of physical slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation signed by Abraham Lincoln. But the Negro was not given any land to make that freedom meaningful. And you know, it was something like having a man in jail years, and then you suddenly discover that this man is innocent. And go to him and say, now you are free. The man's been unjustly jailed for 35 or 40 years, and you just put him out of jail saying, now you are free. You don't give him any bus fare to get to town, no money to buy any clothes, no money to get something to eat. This is what happened to the black man in this country. I can't limit my concern to the middle class. I can't limit my concern to this particular situation where a Negro comes and says, I'm the first this. I'm just tired of the first Negro. I want some seconds and some thirds and some fourths. The civil rights movement has to address itself to this, and the nation has to do it. You see, we are such a rich nation and affluent nation. We often don't see the poor. There are some, you see, most white people can't see the poor because they live in the suburbs. And then they get in town in these big cities on expressways. They don't know nothing about Watts. They've never been there. They don't know anything about Huff in Cleveland, or the west side, or the south side of Chicago, or Harlem. They've never seen it. And they allow the poor to become invisible. And a lot of Negroes, you know, who have somehow sailed or floated out of the backwaters or the muddy waters, and they've kind of been able to ease out into the fresh-flowing waters of the mainstream, have forgotten the stench of the backwater. And I can hear a voice saying that wasn't enough. I was hungry, and you fed me not. I was naked, and you clothed me not. I needed shelter, and you didn't give it to me. I needed a drink of water. And in a world that's 3/4 water, you made me pay a water bill.
Yeah. So it does make a little bit of sense, right? You freed people and left them destitute. And then when they built up cities and towns and infrastructure, you found a reason to infiltrate and then burn it down. And look at those very people and say, you're just lazy. Why don't you pick yourself up? It would be great if you stopped messing with us. Be wonderful. But see, that's the tug of war. And that's, like I said, the federal government failed in their fiduciary duty to protect freed people. And it was their duty. They were duty bound. And it was, yes, they were. Yeah. You know why they were duty bound? Because in our Constitution, it says all men are created equal. Then why did you treat one particular set of people as subservient as a subclass? Even after they were freed, they were still treated, and till this day, treated like a subservient class of this country. Federal government is responsible, and the federal government will restore Black Americans. We are the descendants, and you will restore our people. And does it apply to every melanated person? No, it doesn't. Like Byron Donald said in the video that I played for you, he's like, I'm not going to get reparations. No, you're not, because you're not from the soil, sir. You were born here. Your parents were naturalized, but you are not of us. You're not. You are not from the soil. Period. So just understand it. Like, well, the government can't pay. The government is going to pay. The government is going to restore the damage, just like they restore everybody else. And you can't say that you can't do it because it's been done already. We saw the look. We all sat and watched it. From 2021 forward, he brought in over 10 million people, probably more. Gave them housing. Gave them access to start businesses. Gave them loans. Gave them clothing. Gave them food. While at the same time telling us they're not getting those benefits, and all this fraud is coming out that you did. Some of it didn't even claim fraud. You just put programs together for illegals. You did it. You showed us. You showed us you showed us you could do it. It was a good test run. But now what you're going to do is you're going to restore and repair the American Negro. You're going to do it expeditiously. And everything that was stolen from the American people, you're going to restore that too. Oh, you're going to do that. You're going to restore the American people. Because there's people that don't look like me that suffered this as well. And you're going to fix this, federal government, because you did this. And states that went along with defrauding the American people, you're going to fix this as well, because it wasn't every state that did this. It's just some of them. So it lets me know that there's a little bit of a divide. Yeah. You're going to fix this. You're going to fix this because you know you can. You know you can fix it. Come on. You can fix it. So now I'm going to play this last video. Now, this is a video where somebody had shared where Dr. Martin Luther King was a socialist, right? And he very well may have been a socialist because he dealt with LBJ, who was a socialist, Democrat, right? So let's look at some of the compilation video that was put together.
One day, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But if a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty and the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists. Estimated that we spend $322,000 for each enemy we kill in Vietnam, while we spend in the so-called war on poverty in America only about $53 for each person classified as poor. The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home. The other thing I want you to understand is this, that it didn't cost the nation one penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation one penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power. Yes, yes. All labor has dignity. Yes. But you are doing another thing. You are reminding not only Memphis, but you are reminding the nation that it is a crime for people to live in this rich nation and receive starvation wages. America's opportunity to help bridge the gulf between the haves and the have-nots. And the question is whether America will do it. There's nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty. The real question is whether we have the will.
Yes, and he was seen as a socialist for, some of the, I won't call it rhetoric, but I will say for some of the speeches that he gave, with that ideology, right? It's like you haven't heard that before, you know, and wages should be fair. Will we have people that are impoverished, even if we lived in a perfect society? Yeah, we would, because we do still have people who cannot necessarily fend for themselves. We have people that are permanently disabled. We do have people that have mental challenges. And that's why we have these social safety nets, so we can take care of Americans in our country. That's why part of the reason why we do pay taxes, right? The problem becomes when people have, as we've seen in the past couple of months, committed egregious fraud against the people of America and abused our system. We see, wow, billions of dollars have been spent, but we still have veterans on the street. Billions of dollars have been spent, but we still have people living in abject poverty. So it isn't that the money isn't there and the money being allowed to be abused. That should be no more. That should be no more. We have the opportunity to actually move forward in a better direction with our country, in my opinion, because here's the deal. If you start a company and you're able to pay your employees a livable wage, right, based in whatever area you're working, because it's not easy to run a business, but if you're able to do that for your employees, that's amazing. Do I think that other companies should definitely up, what they pay their employees? They're going to have to, in my opinion, because if people are making $15 an hour at McDonald's, you cannot pay the receptionist who has a bachelor's degree $15 an hour. You're going to have to pay her $25 to $30 an hour, because that makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense that the person at McDonald's is making $15 and the receptionist is making 10 and she's got a bachelor's degree. And she studied to not just be the receptionist, but it was her doorway in, right, to this company to eventually do greater things and maybe become a director or, a supervisor or a manager within that company in whatever capacity her degree follows, right? It's also, we need to get back to people owning their own businesses, right? Bringing back the trades, what people are talking about. And there is still free education out there for people who want to get back into the trades. All you got to do is Google that. Free training for trade jobs, and it will, trust me, come up in your area. The unions, they're looking to train young individuals and upcoming individuals and individuals that may have had to transition, right, from a field that they were in to working in the trades. So the opportunity is here for us to have an advantage in our country. What we have to do is we have to remove people off of this soil that are here illegally and also denaturalize people that do not align with us. Because as we move forward as a country, we cannot keep individuals here that do not align with freedom. If you align with slavery, if you align with actually taking advantage of people and fraud is the only thing you know, you cannot be here in this country. You got to go. And for Americans, there were some that were born here, just saying, some of y'all need to go to prison for what you've done. Now, birthright citizenship is on the table, and I'm really grateful it is, because that means if you've purposely come over here to have a child on this soil with the sole purpose of trying to get them citizenship, and you've come through illegally, you've overstayed your visa, you've overstayed your green card, you don't have any citizenship here, the mother or the father, your child's not going to be a U.S. citizen. I like it. I love it. I love it. Because we're going to bring respect back to our country. It means something to be an American. It means something. Because if it didn't, why are you here? That's all my question is. Why are you here? Why are you on the soil? Oh, just to take advantage of everything? Just to be a leech on society? You can be a leech from your country and you can leave here. You can go. No, we're not playing that game anymore. We're not playing the guilt trip. We're not playing the it's okay to be a criminal and still get the benefits of being an American. We're not playing representatives and people in authority and these politicians being criminals. We demand arrest. I demand tribunals, actually. I want tribunals. That's what I want. I want these people sat down, divulge everything. And if you don't divulge everything, because we already know you're a part of the criminal activity, but if you don't divulge it, it's just not going to go well for you. It's going to be just instantaneous Leavenworth. You are going to prison. And you will spend the rest of your days there. And anything that you left behind, houses, cars, money, bank accounts, it will all be confiscated and returned to the American people. All of it. I want every single governor and mayor that refused to send their information to the USDA, or I want all their passports revoked. Now, immediately, you don't get to leave the country. None of you. You need to stand trial. Now, I wanted to go through just a little bit of the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. So we know about the Montgomery boycott. He was founding the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. It served as its first president, organizing nonviolent protests against Jim Crow across the South. The Birmingham campaign in 1963, the March on Washington in 1963. That's where he gave that famous speech, right? His I Have a Dream speech. Selma to Montgomery marches in 65, and then the later broader issues. Expanded activism to address poverty and opposition to the Vietnam War, forming coalitions across racial lines, and he received a Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 for his efforts. Now, I wanted to get into his political ideology. Now, King's ideology centered on nonviolence, social justice, and equality, blending Christian theology with democratic principles. He was not formally affiliated with any political party and criticized both Democrats and Republicans for failing Black Americans. Okay, so he did have nonviolent resistance. His critique on capitalism and socialism. So he was sympathetic to Marxist critiques of economic inequality, but rejected communism, atheism, and materialism, favoring a democratic socialism that addressed poverty while upholding faith and individual rights. And it's interesting because you would think, just as a normal person, you don't want people impoverished, you want people empowered, right? That's why I'm always talking about, hey, I would rather see more people own their own businesses and work with companies, not for companies. Because in my opinion, when you work for someone, they're over you. We need to start working with it. It's equal. It's like, okay, this company needs what you bring to the table. So you are working with them, not for them. You know what I'm saying? It's just that mentality, right? And, you know, to address poverty and that be considered socialist, that's kind of weird because poverty does need to be addressed. But like I said, there are always going to be people that are impoverished because you are going to have people that cannot fend for themselves because of whatever disabilities they have, right? Or they fell on hard times. Not everybody is going to be super wealthy or even middle class. You are going to have people that what we consider poor. But here's the thing, can poverty not necessarily be managed so people stay impoverished, but can you say, okay, at the low end of what our society looks like, people are still, they still have a good quality of life, even though they're not making as much as the person that has a 3-bedroom house, but they still have a 3-bedroom house that's a little bit more humble than the other 3-bedroom house. It might be a little bit smaller, but it's still a quality of life that's not a hovel. There's not rats in the walls or in the floors. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's I'm looking at that part. Okay? Just because you're not doing as well as somebody else, right? Doesn't mean that you're living in infestation either. That's all I'm saying. We have to make sure that, you know, people are able to take care of themselves. And for those that aren't able to take care of themselves, they have the help that they need. I don't think that's socialist. I think that's just, you know, being a conscious human being and caring. So now, broad social justice, right? He advocated for civil rights, economic justice, and anti-war position, viewing the U.S. Constitution and Declaration of Independence as promissory notes for equality. He opposed the Vietnam War and sought coalitions for the poor across races. He had nonpartisan stance. He voted for Democrats, likely Kennedy and Johnson, but denounced Republicans Barry Goldwater in 1964, considered a third party run in 1967, but prioritized activism over politics. So people did want him to run. Right. Now, addressing Black Americans coming for their check. In his I Have a Dream speech in August 28, 1963, at the March on Washington, King used the metaphor of a bad check to highlight America's unfulfilled promises of equality to Black people, framing the civil rights movement as a demand to cash that check. Key points from his speech: promissory note, analogy, bad check metaphor, demand for payment. Right. Now, J. Edgar Hoover's view of King as a threat in connection to King's death, because I asked that question too. Now, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover viewed King and other Black leaders as threats, labeling King a communist sympathizer and radical, leading to extensive surveillance under the COINTELPRO program from 1955 to 68. Perceived threat: Hoover believed King was influenced by communists despite evidence to the contrary, and resented King's criticisms of the FBI's handling of civil rights cases. This animosity intensified after King's 1964 statement calling the FBI in ineffectual. So surveillance and harassment authorized wiretaps on King's home, SCLC offices, and hotel rooms. Between 63 and 66, distributed memos to discredit him, including to President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964. The FBI sent King an anonymous letter with compromising tapes, interpreted and suggesting suicide. Broader context, part of COINTELPRO targeting civil rights groups, including the Black Panther Party and SNCC, to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize them. So this person, J. Edgar Hoover, he had a extreme hatred for Black Americans, and he was in our government. Interesting, because I still go back to the Constitution. All men are created equal. What is your hatred? What is your real hatred? So crazy. Now, link to assassination. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968 by James Earl Ray, who was convicted. The FBI led the investigation to apprehend Ray, but faced criticism for prior hostility. No direct FBI involvement in the assassination has been proven, though conspiracy theories persist due to the surveillance campaign. A 1979 congressional review found no evidence of FBI complicity, but noted the Bureau's efforts may have indirectly contributed to a climate of hostility. What I didn't look up left on Capitol. No, I didn't ask that question. Sorry. We'll just see that together. I just want to know, did they find anything new with what's been released? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Maybe some nuances. But yeah, the FBI was very slick because, see, you got to remember, they worked with the Ku Klux Klan. They were working with all kind of people. They were okay. Committing crimes that they would definitely cover up. I mean, they're not going to expose themselves, right? But your attitude exposed you, your vitriol for leaders in the Black community, just putting together COINTELPRO, period, led to that. So you guys are seeing in real time me using Grok. I've done that on the show before, but I really wanted to, address this the best I could. If is there anything new? So it says, as of early 2026, historians and scholars reviewing the files. Let's see what has come about. Okay. Ray's use of aliases. Okay. His brother, Chinese propaganda, CIA talking points. Okay. Yeah, they had talking points. All right, so let's see. Okay, so the assassination investigation without introduction, dramatic new evidence, or resolving longstanding conspiracy theories. For instance, they detailed years of intense FBI probing, potential leads, internal memos, case progress. However, some specific details highlighted in media analysis of the files offer fresh context or previous unreported nuances. Though they are not considered groundbreaking by experts, based on a review of the documents, here are 7 notable um, revelations compiled from the release, drawn from FBI, CIA, and other agency records. So there was a Texas man claimed encounter with Ray. A man named Joseph Meyer reported seeing someone resembling James Earl Ray practicing rifle shooting in Mississippi 2 weeks before the assassination. The CIA monitoring of Cuba's response. Theater infiltrating a press conference, right? Theodore Adank, who had threatened to kill King, posing as a journalist to sneak into a 1967 press conference. Ray's use of aliases. Documents outline how Ray used fake names like Harvey Lohmeyer and Eric Galt to buy the murder weapon and take dance classes. That's interesting. Ray's brother, an audio interview with Jerry Ray suggests he may have been paid and framed as a fall guy in the plot. Interesting. Chinese propaganda response. U.S. intelligence collected Chinese Communist Party materials urging an uprising against Yankee imperialists following King's death. And that's actually happening right now. I'm going to have to share that video with you guys tomorrow. In CIA Talking Points in 1975, CIA document prepares responses for a Dan Rather interview denying agency involvement in King and others' assassination. Yeah. So that's state-run media, by the way, when things like that happen, when it's state-run media, when the government can tell the media what they can and cannot release. And that does happen. It does. But I want to thank you guys for joining me here on Mighty Men Thursday. I know it was open mic Thursday. I didn't see anybody email me or, see anybody want to, come in. I did check my messages. That's why you guys see me flipping through my phone. I'm like, is anybody trying to reach out right now? But tomorrow is going to be our Prayer with Fridays. Hopefully we'll have a couple of guests come through. But I want to thank you guys for joining me here on our Mighty Men Thursday. And I wanted to highlight Dr. Martin Luther King as we are going in to celebrate his birthday on Monday. And some people celebrate it, some people don't. Like I said, he, for some, he's become a polarizing figure, interestingly enough. And for some, he was a symbol of, our country having the conversation, having the hard conversation about civil rights, right? Having the difficult conversation about men really and truly being created equal. And we're still having that conversation today based on his efforts in wanting, equality within our great nation here in America, our home, the United States. So again, thank you for joining me. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.